Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Dojo Live. My name is Kim Lantis, and it's my pleasure to be hosting today from one of our offices. If you watched the recap show yesterday, my home internet was awful, and I did not want to have to suffer through that again. So joining me to co-host is America Guerrero. Hey, America.
Hey, everybody.
From Cancun, Mexico. Envy her, everyone. And today our guest is Anne Hand. I'm very excited about the show for a variety of reasons. And it's kind of sad still that we have to say this, but to have a CEO of a tech company be a woman really empowers me. And so I'm very excited for today's
thank you for having me.
Yes, it's our pleasure. So, Anne, today we're going to be talking about the metaverse. This is actually a topic that's come up quite a bit on our show recently. But before we get to that, I would love to be able to get to know you a bit better and your story. What is your story? How did you get to where you are today?
Yeah, I always start with the fact that I'm the youngest of four girls from Indiana. I'm very proud of my Midwestern roots. So there you have
Montana
it.
Girl.
I get a little bit of Hoosier pride in anywhere I can. No, I kind of, after graduating college, I did kind of classically what my generation thought was winning, right? It was getting a job with a big company. Little did I know that my first entry-level job at Mobil Oil is running gas stations. So I ran gas stations in inner city Philly. I went from running 10 to 20 to 100. And in my final days as an executive at BP, I had about 20,000. So somehow everything always came back to gas stations, but no, I had a wonderful career in large cap, ran multi-billion-dollar P&Ls and brands, got to live around the world and really, work with just some fantastic people and be able to do a lot of good. When you're at big companies, you have a lot of heft, capital. And so I worked a lot on bringing cleaner fuels into emerging markets and trying to improve air quality and things like that. And then I met some venture capitalists, frankly, and I kind of got flattered. I was such a big company gal that all of a sudden these guys from Kleiner Perkins wanted to talk to me about running a clean tech company. And it was very naive of me, to be candid. I thought, well, how hard can it be to run a 10-person company? I had 3,000 people. But it's very humbling, right? It's humbling to try to create something that hasn't been done before. So much of early stage companies is about timing. I learned how to raise money externally, different than fighting for capital inside a company. But I had some very supportive VCs who, frankly, really taught me the ways of Sand Hill Road, and I'm grateful for it. And then after about 5 years of that, I was missing the itch of the consumer. I love running B2B businesses as well, but I just like that irrational end user. I like the psychology of building a brand and creating emotional attachment to a brand. And I knew some of the investors in Super League. It was about 6 months old. And my first reaction was like, no way. Like, my game's Galaga. Like, not that I know marketing 101 is you don't have to be the consumer, right? I've sold motor oil and I don't know how to change my motor oil. So right. I still, I was a little intimidated. And then, there was really this moment where it hit me that, like, my heavens, everybody's a gamer these days. And unlike my generation, they really are growing out of it. It's the preferred form of entertainment. It's just so community-based and positive. And once I realized that gaming is good for you in the right context and empowering, and has, so much fundamentals of STEM, and I started to really have this passion to want to debunk the myth of who a gamer is and to celebrate good gaming. And once I kind of latched onto that emotional hook for myself, that's usually when I'm off to the races. Now, I will say it took me, my background of going from energy and retail to gaming. I did for the first few years at Super League at times question myself. And I tell a lot of CMOs and CEOs all the time, this notion that just because we've been working for 30 years, that we still don't have these moments of questioning is crazy, right? And there was a breakthrough a few years ago where instead of trying to think too much about the from energy to esports and gaming and metaverse, I just decided to celebrate the fact that I'm versatile. And that really, like, helped me, I think, just kind of not let myself get in the way of doing what we're here to do. And so it's been a fun personal time of development for me as much as the professional, which is nice when
That's
you're older that you can
yeah.
kind of still keep learning. So
That's amazing. I actually came across a meme the other day. It was based off of parenting, but I think it applies here. Something about how we tell our children to grow up, but the truth is we're always growing up, right?
yeah.
And so I think your testament to that of being versatile and just continuously learning and being vulnerable and open to that as well, I think is fantastic. So here we are with Super League Gaming. I really like the term that you used, good gaming. I think that's going to speak to a lot of people. I want to come back to that later in the show. But tell us a bit about Super League. Who are you? What makes you different in your space?
Yeah, so the company started out actually around the topic of esports. And so some people still kind of think that's what we're about, but we're so much broader and I think much more exciting than just esports. But we started thinking about youth and their interest in gaming, and we started running competitive leagues and tournaments for under 18 players. And we also did some things with that older demographic around games like League of Legends and other titles. But we really seemed to have kind of a lane that was unique on the way that we really safely and positively engage with that younger gamer.
Mm-hmm.
And we started with the game Minecraft, and we created competitive gaming experiences inside that game because again, it's such a good game, right?
It
Those
is.
roots of STEM and
My 10-year-old would agree.
yes. And so what we realized is that, well, we don't want to just talk to the competitive Minecraft player. We want to talk to all the different segments in Minecraft. And so we started thinking more about the player that's there for the creation, either to build a game or create some kind of beautiful other experience. We thought a lot about the ones who are just there to socialize and make friends and have fun and be entertained. And so what we started to do as a company, starting really about 3-4 years ago, is really double down on youth and double down on metaverse games. Now, I say a lot of times to investors, look, I'm not talking about capital M metaverse Facebook. I'm talking about the fact that metaverse games like Minecraft and Roblox have been around for some time. Metaverse games have been around for over a decade. And we have been in that space for about 8 years, and we've built success for ourselves. So through our owned and operated properties and then our extensive network of gaming world partners inside those two titles predominantly, we reach about 70 million players a month now.
Wow.
And so we've really gotten to a place where we're speaking to a really diverse audience of different type of players. Like, for example, the other day I was talking to the president of Barbie, and we were talking about, the Barbie girl. What does she want to experience maybe in the metaverse? It's different than, what a real competitive player wants. And she cares about discovery and friendship and design and creation. And so that's the beautiful thing that we're positioned with now is with our reach, we really have an opportunity to bring brands in a really authentic way, really helping them target the types of kind of that elusive audience that they want to reach. And we don't do it in a way that is like how the internet kind of failed us with advertising, where advertising is a nuisance. It's
Oh yeah.
popping up and blocking your experience. We're really bringing brands in a real immersive, exciting way that makes the gameplay more fun for the player and unlocks new kind of features and benefits. And so it's just a very different, progressive, innovative advertising model. And we finally have the scale now to really talk to some of the biggest brands in the world and help them deliver their campaign and consumer goals.
Barbie, for sure. One of the biggest brands I can think of as a girl, as a woman.
Yeah.
Perfect. So let's talk a bit more to the topic that you chose to discuss today. America, what is that?
Sure. So the topic is the infinite brand extensibility of the metaverse. The
Mhm.
metaverse is here to stay. Here is how to supercharge brand entry into the multi-billion-dollar industry. So, Anne, why did you choose this topic? Why is it relevant?
Yeah, I mean, in some ways, it does speak, I think, and tap so much into one of my last positions as an executive at BP. I was running most of our global brands, and I had the opportunity to kind of sit in that CMO type chair and really think about launching new brands, building brand affinity, and And over the last year, there's a part of me now that I feel like if I could talk to my old CMO self, what would I be saying to her? And I'd be saying to her that, like, look, this is like you not having a social media strategy 15 years ago, right? And so I'm having a lot of fun talking to current sitting CMOs and saying exactly what I'm going to say to you, right? Which is like, first of all, this is not scary. This is not a big bet or risk for you to take. If you're a more risk averse CMO, there are ways for you to dip your toe into these massive existing metaverse game communities. And again, these aren't games where you need a VR headset. These are highly accessible games that already hundreds of millions of kids already play. They're there. That's where they're hanging out. Exactly. And so with that, what I tell them is, look, you can, in some ways, show your company, be a real innovator in your company by showing them how you can reach an elusive audience. 81% of kids, Gen Z, say that gaming is their preferred entertainment activity. 82% use some type of ad skipping tech. So, this is an audience you want to reach. You're struggling with how to reach them. And the thing is that I'm not asking you to go build a game and build a world. I'm going to take you into existing games that already have traffic in them. And I'm going to guarantee you a performance result that you can really go back and start to be, in many ways, the voice of the opportunities in the metaverse, because the opportunities are extensive. It's not just about running a campaign here or there. Asking the question, how is the metaverse a new source of customer acquisition, deepening affinity and retention? Extending IP, for a company like Mattel, it's taking Barbie, physical, plastic, right, IP, and moving into a digital world for further monetization. You can be selling a digital shirt for your avatar that has a cool Barbie, logo on it, but then maybe a month later, it's available in your physical life too. So it's nice. New sources of revenue streams. It has digital to physical crossover. But it's also a place to introduce new IP. What if you're launching, we just had DreamWorks, who just had a new release, The Bad Guys. So 5 characters, 5 new pieces of IP, never with no real kind of, brand awareness around them. And they dropped those characters inside some of our gaming worlds, and we had a 64% engagement rate. So the digital players wanted to say, who is that character? How do I engage with them? They wanted to get into a conversation with those non-playing characters. So I think it's a really smart way to road test new IP. And the simplest example too, when I talk about new customer acquisition is, if the younger generation does not see a difference between their digital and physical life. It's just their life.
They do not. Exactly.
And they want their digital and physical selves to align around the same values and brand preferences. And, if I buy a very affordable pair of Nike sneakers for my digital self, or maybe even a Gucci cape, right? My propensity now to want to buy that in real life, and things like a League of Legends player is a pretty hardcore player, and if you look at in an extreme way, I mean, this is stereotyping and generalizing a little bit, but the typical stereotype of the League of Legends player, they're probably not lining up outside of Rodeo Drive trying to get in the Gucci shop. No. But the moment that they've purchased maybe a digital good for their champion, maybe they will want to wear a belt or have a wallet or bring that into their physical life. And so I think it's a really powerful way for brands to think about starting to build affinity with this next generation.
Right. And I think what you say makes a lot of sense, particularly going back with DreamWorks and like movies, for example. It has shifted so much since I was a kid, even so much in the last 2 or 3 years that I can think of, particularly with so much streaming happening. And the fact that movies are actually in the theater for a much shorter amount of time. And it just seems like that physical world of those characters, that lifespan is so much less. So yes, that shift into the digital world makes so much sense. Before we get to a bit more into the marketing aspect, I want to go back to that good gaming that you talked about, play a little bit of the devil's advocate here. What would you say to those naysayers about maybe the dangers of online gaming, or how, we're all just going to turn into some, plugged in zombies and forget about, the trees and the birds and the fresh air outside? What is good gaming? Why is it something that we can confidently get behind?
Yeah, I mean, and we talk a lot to parents of some of our gamers too. I mean, look, I've always said, unfortunately, anything that has anonymity can bring out some bad behaviors, right? Just like social media can. We've always had a pretty strict code of conduct. We have no problem banning players, and we do it. And what we find is that when we, when we enforce that code of conduct, then the community applauds it, and they start to almost become the self-enforcing of that code. Maybe Super League or Mine Hut, one of our own and operated parties, maybe that's not the right place for you, is kind of the way they try to kind of police each other a bit. It is a small percent of players who try to kind of bring toxicity into the games. We do a lot to, even with our older offerings, we do an all women's League of Legends tournament where it's all, they're the shoutcasters that are behind the cameras. So we do a lot to really kind of celebrate inclusive gaming. But, the reality is, as I said, 95% of the players out there, they really want positive experiences.
Mm-hmm.
And it goes back to, again, there's so much positive social engagement. I mean, 30 years ago, if you said that your child was going to school to be, to major in computer science, people would probably be like, oh, I'm sorry. I don't know why, but there's this stigma to it. Well, now it's like you say that and you're like, oh my God, you guys certainly did something right raising those kids.
Yeah.
You got the next genius on your hands. And I think that's kids are learning how to code. Roblox is the ultimate act of democratizing game design. Anybody can make a game now. And there's 16-year-olds who are millionaires because of it. And that's, to me, cool. And that probably does go back to, like, there's a common theme with brands I've run, and it took me a while to observe this about myself. I have a high bent on inclusion. Maybe it's from being a female as CEO. Maybe it's from being from the Midwest. Who knows where these things are rooted, but this notion of a level playing field. And that's the beautiful thing about gaming is it breaks down, the rules of gender, or even physically challenged people with the right devices can have a level playing field, and it's affordable and, and accessible. And there's something to me that's so inspiring and lifting about that really kind of is what kind of helped me lean into taking the job.
Thank you. That's beautiful. Going back to the ability to kind of market within this metaverse, my question is, traditionally, a lot of the times it's the company marketing to its users, but I also see that this is a way that's now opening up that reverse path of users being able to market to the company. How much research is happening, or what kind of voice might I have? Let's go back to the Nike shoe, or my ability to design. If Nike is seeing something that's very, very popular within a game, it's going to increase the reality of turning that into a physical product. Or is market research happening within these games? How can we exploit them? I don't know if exploit's the right word, but
it's spot on with the conversation I'm having right now with a big brand about a different way in, testing IP, testing designs, allowing the users themselves to create, maybe the next big IP. So you're spot on. It's I think, because again, if you take what these open world game platforms have done in democratizing game design, you can democratize anything. Anything can be invented inside of these worlds. And so I think it's pretty exciting to let them tell us what they want, what they love. In fact, I because we do so much work with entertainment companies like Netflix and Disney Plus and NBC Universal, I've often said to them, it's great to come to us and run a campaign, 10 days before a new release in the theaters. But I think you should be coming to us 6 months before. I think you should be testing out what's the sentiment around. Are people excited about the new Minions movie or not? I'm sure they are.
Right. Or maybe this missed opportunity, excuse the interruption, but what you're saying, going back to Disney and Encanto, which I think that's what it's called in English as well. I live in Mexico, and that's what it's released as here. Is it Encanto in the United States as well?
I think so.
Enchanted or something. Where in socials, like, I think there was this huge connection to the Luisa character, the strong one, where maybe expectations or logic would tell you that it was going to be, what's her name? The flower one, the pretty feminine one, right? So one would think that maybe girls are going to be more drawn to the traditionally attractive pretty one. And there was this huge draw to this like surprise Luisa strong female character. And so maybe if they had done something 6 months earlier, this would have better impacted the toys that are available and whatever else.
And how you would redirect think about every billboard on Sunset, Boulevard, and celebrating the wrong character or overemphasizing the wrong, so you're right. And I just think that's why I've said, think about us before you decide how you're going to allocate your marketing dollars, because we might inform some smarter decisions.
I'm curious, in addition to the entertainment industry, toys, wallets, clothes, are there other verticals? Are there like services?
Yeah, it's a great question. What we've seen in our sales pipeline, we've seen some really exciting trends that I talked about in our last earnings call. So first of all, our average deal size is growing. So, a year ago, our median ad, brand partner deal size was, call it 50, 60K. Now our average is about 200K. So that proves that the old adage about advertising, it's all about scale. Now that we have such significant reach, advertisers can put more money to work. We also just finished our first 7-figure deal. We brought Samsung into the Metaverse. We live streamed a music concert out of the Metaverse for them, and amplified it with social influencer reach. So it's a real kind of end-to-end campaign. So that's exciting that deal sizes are high. We also have always classically had really high repeat buying. So in Q1, 90% of our deals were repeat, either with brands or agencies. So obviously we're delivering the ROI. But then to your question, America, the other thing that gives me comfort is now the diversity of the verticals. Because classically before, it's people launching a new game, maybe. We've done a lot with Spin Master and games like Bakugan and others that they want to introduce to young players. Or it's peripherals. Logitech's one of our investors, and obviously the gaming peripherals business is a big business for them. Or entertainment, toys. Those things make sense, right, as categories. But now we're doing things around CPG, fashion to that point. Nike has bought some of our inventory. Tyson Foods. We do things with Hyundai. Starting to explore some things with financial services, banking. So it's nice to see the diversity. Everybody wants to build, it's get marketing 101 too, get them young, And so, the thing that I feel good about though is, we are always been COPA compliant. We just received our Kids Safe certification. We take that line and that bar on safety very seriously. In fact, one of our reselling partners, the Venata CEO, just said in a DigiDay article, when the CEO of Hasbro calls, I can tell them Super League's safe. And that to me really goes back to those brand values too. And so, even from some of the first questions you asked me, that decision we made to like good gaming, safe gaming, young gamers, and that we're the trusted company that will take good care of that community and make sure that we only bring in partners that operate with that same value set.
That's great. And we're coming to, it's perfect timing actually to the segue to the final section of our show. And that's to speak into your company culture. Mm-hmm. So, Super League Gaming is a safe space for kids. And my assumption is that it's also a safe space for you and your people. What is your company culture like as a CEO? What are you looking to build? What is it like to work with Super League Gaming?
Yeah. So I had a wonderful CEO many years ago who said to me that brand is the root of strategy and culture. And when you're getting it right, it's all the same, right? And so it really impressed upon me that the brand positioning was everything because it would inform how we behaved internally as well. And so when I talk about inclusion and empowerment and all those things we stand for with our players and our game developer partners, that has to be what we're about internally too. I've always been a person who, again, maybe by the nature of wanting my bosses to treat me in an empowering way, I've always tried to run really flat orgs, to strip out layers. I don't like the notion that people think, oh, I can only talk to so and so if I go through their line of command. So I've always liked to have really open, collaborative, environments. What I'm proud about our culture now, and I say that because I couldn't say it quite as much 4 or 5 years ago, is I feel now like we're really in sync with what we stand for. And strangely, the pandemic almost made it even better. And I'll tell you why. First of all, when you're a gaming company, that's not a good enough screen of who should work there. If everybody's a gamer, then everybody wants to come in the door, right? And especially in Los Angeles, it's cool to work for a gaming company, right? We needed to really get more and more locked into that brand positioning. And the more that we externally said, this is who we are, this is our flag we're planting, it started to become a lens for who wanted to work there and who aligned around it. And so I think in the early years, I was struggling to just lock that lane in. And once it got locked, it made everything internally flow better. And then what happened in the pandemic is we all on, March, 13th, ran to our homes and started working. And because we all got thrown into the fire together, this shared experience, we actually really rose to the occasion. I mean, I was surprised, frankly, that the company was so productive out of the gate. But we also said, look, you're paid what you're paid because that's what you're worth. We don't care where you live. We respect and trust you to get your work done. And we want you to have a great life. So let's just do the best we all can and be good human beings and have each other's back. And so we've had very little churn in the last couple of years. And I've never, in a strange way, felt more intimate and connected with the team. We laugh a lot and we have a lot of fun. And yet we're all virtual, but it works. And I just had an independent person do some employee surveys just because I thought, well, I don't want to be buying this too much, if drinking my own, narrative on this.
Of course.
And the number one thing was people feel trusted and respected in a flexible work environment. So they're choosing Super League and what we stand for because I think we're living internally as best we can what we aspire to be externally too.
I love that. Congratulations, Anne. We do have, it's a bit off of our final closing. We'd like to close on culture, but we did get a live question coming in. And the ask is, it goes something like this. Ubisoft talked about making cosmetics in-game into NFTs. The biggest complaint people had was in regard to the digital goods being limited to a single game.
Yeah.
Is there a possibility of a unified digital universe where these goods can be carried from game to game, thereby making them a more tangible purchase instead of just a game cosmetic? What's your take?
Yeah, that just came up in a panel I was on last week as well. So it's a very popular conversation. And it's why I do think like the capital M metaverse is kind of 5 or 10 years off. I think that, collaboration across platform, Fortnite being an Epic being comfortable that you're going to take your skin to Minehut, those are, and Minecraft, those it'll be interesting to see if there are a couple of the larger publishers who decide to start to collaborate and break down those walled gardens, right? Because that is ultimately what, again, as we talked about, the player doesn't see a difference between their digital physical life. And so they want that freedom and right. And I do think that we'll continue to see that gaming will be the leader, though, in any of the advancements of the big capital M metaverse, right? I just think that it's already an entrenched community. It's already very successful. I think you'll see more and more education modules being built through metaverse games. Why not? If you're going to learn about speedometry, wouldn't it be a heck of a lot more fun to race a Hot Wheels car and learn, than open a book? So I think you'll continue to see gaming kind of be like the Trojan horse for breaking through some of those things. And if there is an opportunity for platforms to start to create that crossover or that common digital kind of catalog, I think that it'll be gaming who will lead it.
Right. I think in the sense of just continuing down that path of what's great for me is great for all of us, and what's great for all of us is great for me, and trying to bring that unification. Thank you so much, Anne, for your time today. It's been a pleasure to get to learn from you. We wish you and Super League nothing but success. We have come to the end of our show, and we do have 2 more shows lined up this week. And what might they be, America?
Yeah, sure. So tomorrow we are going to have a show with Anir Pradhan. Hope that I say it correctly. He is the COO at Amp Info. Yes. So he's going to talk about how to boost employee retention in the age to the Great Resignation. Don't miss it. It's going to be tomorrow.
Cool. And Thursday show is coming up with. That one's going to be Joe Polivari with Pure PM. And so that's also at 12 o'clock Pacific. Thank you, Anne, again for your time today. Please stay on just a moment as we go off air. And everyone else, have a great rest of your day.